Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 1. The Worst Birthday. Not for the first time, an argument had broken out over breakfast at number 4 Privet Drive. Mr. Vernon Dursley had been woken by a loud, hooting noise from his nephew Harry's room. "Third time this week," he roared. "If you can't control that owl, it'll have to go." "She's bored," Harry explained. "She's used to flying around outside. If I could just let her out at night." "Do I look stupid?" snarled Uncle Vernon. "I know what'll happen if that owl's let out." The tension was broken by Dudley's loud belch as he demanded more bacon. When Harry reminded him to say please, the reaction was explosive. Uncle Vernon thundered about mentioning the M word in their house, veins throbbing in his temples. Harry Potter was no ordinary boy. He was a wizard, fresh from his first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The Dursleys being what wizards called muggles with no magical blood, considered having a wizard in the family a matter of deepest shame. All Harry's magical possessions had been locked away the moment he'd returned for summer. Uncle Vernon had even padlocked Harry's owl, Hedwig, inside her cage to prevent any contact with the magical world. Harry missed Hogwarts terribly. The castle with its secret passageways, his classes, the banquets, and especially Quidditch, the most popular wizarding sport. More than anything, he missed his best friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, who hadn't written to him all summer. The Dursleys hadn't even remembered today was Harry's 12th birthday. When Uncle Vernon announced that today was important, Harry briefly dared to hope, only to discover his uncle was referring to a dinner party with potential clients. "Now, as we all know, today is a very important day," said Uncle Vernon. Harry's hopes were quickly dashed as his uncle outlined the evening's plan for entertaining the Masons, wealthy clients who might place a large order with Vernon's drill company. "And you?" Vernon asked Harry nastily. "I'll be in my room, making no noise and pretending I'm not there," Harry replied dully. After Uncle Vernon left to pick up dinner jackets, Harry slumped on the garden bench, singing quietly to himself. "Happy birthday to me. No cards, no presents, and an evening of pretending not to exist." He had never felt so lonely. As Harry stared miserably into the hedge, he suddenly noticed 2 enormous green eyes staring back at him. Before he could investigate, Dudley approached, taunting him about his birthday. "I know what day it is. How come you haven't got any cards? Haven't you even got friends at that freak place?" When Dudley asked why Harry was staring at the hedge, Harry couldn't resist. "I'm trying to decide what would be the best spell to set it on fire." Dudley fled in terror, shouting for his mother, though Harry hadn't actually performed magic, which was forbidden for underage wizards outside school. Aunt Petunia punished him with hours of grueling yard work under the blazing sun. By evening, exhausted and sunburnt, Harry was allowed a meager supper of bread and cheese, while the Dursleys prepared for their guests. As the doorbell rang, Uncle Vernon hissed a final warning. "Remember, boy, one sound." Harry slipped into his bedroom, ready to collapse on his bed, only to discover someone was already sitting on it. Chapter 2. Dobby's Warning. Harry managed not to shout out when he saw the strange creature on his bed. It had large bat-like ears and bulging green eyes the size of tennis balls. The same creature he'd spotted watching him from the garden hedge that morning. The creature wore what looked like an old pillowcase with holes for arms and legs. It bowed low, its nose touching the carpet. "Harry Potter, it squeaked in a high-pitched voice. "So long has Dobby wanted to meet you, sir. Such an honor it is." "Who are you?" Harry asked nervously, aware of the Dursleys entertaining guests downstairs. "Dobby, sir. Just Dobby. Dobby the house elf," the creature replied. When Harry politely offered Dobby a seat, the elf burst into noisy tears, explaining no wizard had ever asked him to sit down like an equal. Harry quickly tried to quiet him, worried the Dursleys would hear. "Dobby has come to tell you, sir," the elf began earnestly. "Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts." Harry stared in shock. "But I've got to go back. Term starts on September 1st. It's all that's keeping me going. I don't belong here. I belong in your world, at Hogwarts." "No, no, no," Dobby insisted, shaking his head vigorously. "There is a plot, Harry Potter. A plot to make most terrible things happen at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry this year. Harry Potter must not put himself in peril." When Harry pressed for details about the plot, Dobby began punishing himself by banging his head against the wall. Harry learned that house elves were bound to serve one family forever unless set free, and Dobby would face severe punishment for warning Harry. Harry Potter asks if he can help Dobby. The elf said reverently, "Dobby has heard of your greatness, sir, but of your goodness Dobby never knew." Dobby revealed he had intercepted Harry's letters from his friends, hoping Harry would think they'd forgotten him and wouldn't want to return to school. When Harry refused to promise not to go back to Hogwarts, Dobby ran downstairs. Heart pounding, Harry followed silently and found Dobby in the kitchen beside Aunt Petunia's elaborate pudding. "No," Harry whispered desperately. "Please, they'll kill me. Harry Potter must say he's not going back to school. I can't." With a tragic look, Dobby snapped his fingers. The pudding crashed to the floor, cream splattering everywhere, and Dobby vanished with a crack. Uncle Vernon tried to smooth things over with the Masons, but then an owl swooped in with a letter that sent Mrs. Mason screaming from the house. The letter informed Harry he'd been detected using a hover charm, violating the restriction on underage magic. "You didn't tell us you weren't allowed to use magic outside school," Uncle Vernon said, with a maniacal gleam in his eyes. "I'm locking you up. You're never going back to that school. Never." The next morning, Uncle Vernon had bars installed on Harry's window and a cat flap in the door to push in meager amounts of food. 3 days later, Harry lay starving and miserable, wondering if he'd ever return to Hogwarts. He fell into an uneasy sleep, dreaming he was caged in a zoo labeled Underage Wizard. He was awakened by a rattling sound at his window. In the moonlight, peering through the bars, was a freckle-faced, red-haired boy, Ron Weasley. Chapter 3. The Burrow. "Ron!" breathed Harry, creeping to the window and pushing it up so they could talk through the bars. Harry's mouth fell open as he saw Ron leaning out of an old turquoise car, floating in midair. Fred and George, Ron's elder twin brothers, grinned from the front seats. "All right, Harry?" asked George. "What's been going on?" said Ron. "Why haven't you been answering my letters? Dad said you got an official warning for using magic in front of Muggles." "It wasn't me, but it'll take too long to explain," Harry replied. "The Dursleys have locked me up and won't let me go back to Hogwarts." "Stop gibbering," said Ron. "We've come to take you home with us." Fred threw a rope for Harry to tie around the bars. The car revved louder, and suddenly, with a crunching noise, the bars were pulled clean out of the window. Harry listened anxiously, but there was no sound from the Dursleys' bedroom. Fred and George climbed through the window into Harry's room. George picked the lock on Harry's door with a hairpin. "A lot of wizards think it's a waste of time knowing this sort of Muggle trick," said Fred, "but we feel their skills worth learning." They retrieved Harry's trunk from the cupboard under the stairs and heaved it through the window. Just as Harry was about to escape, Hedwig screeched loudly. "I've forgotten Hedwig." Harry grabbed the owl's cage as Uncle Vernon's thunderous voice echoed through the house. Harry passed the cage to Ron and scrambled back onto the windowsill when Uncle Vernon burst through the door and grabbed Harry's ankle. The Weasleys pulled hard and Harry's leg slid free. He slammed the car door shut. "Put your foot down, Fred," yelled Ron, and the car shot toward the moon. Harry rolled down the window and looked back at Privet Drive, where the Dursleys stood dumbstruck at Harry's window. "See you next summer," Harry yelled. Harry told them about Dobby the house elf and his warning that terrible things would happen at Hogwarts. "Very fishy," said Fred finally. "Definitely dodgy," agreed George. "House elves have powerful magic but can't usually use it without their master's permission. Someone might have sent Dobby to stop you returning to Hogwarts." They discussed who might own Dobby, suspecting the wealthy Malfoy family. As dawn approached, Fred brought the car lower. They landed beside a tumble-down garage at Ron's house, the Burrow. It looked as though it had once been a stone pig pen, but extra rooms had been added until it was several stories high and so crooked it seemed held up by magic. "It's not much," said Ron. "It's wonderful," said Harry happily, thinking of Privet Drive. Harry followed her into the small, cramped kitchen, fascinated by the magical household items. A clock with only one hand that pointed to things like "Time to feed the chickens" and "You're late." Books with titles like "Charm Your Own Cheese" and a radio announcing "Witching Hour" with the popular singing sorceress, Celestina Warbeck. Mrs. Weasley served Harry a generous breakfast while continuing to scold her sons. After breakfast, she ordered the boys to de-gnome the garden. Harry, who had never seen a de-gnoming, volunteered to help. Out in the garden, Ron showed Harry how to catch Darden gnomes, potato-headed creatures that bit and kicked, and fling them over the hedge. When they finished, Mr. Weasley arrived home from work, exhausted after a night of raids on enchanted Muggle objects. He worked in the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts office at the Ministry of Magic. Mrs. Weasley confronted him about the flying car. "Arthur Weasley, you made sure there was a loophole when you wrote that law, just so you could carry on tinkering with Muggle rubbish." Mr. Weasley was caught between enthusiasm for the flying car's success and his wife's fury. Ron and Harry slipped away upstairs. On the way, they glimpsed Ron's shy sister Ginny, who had been talking about Harry all summer. In Ron's violently orange bedroom, decorated with posters of his favorite Quidditch team, the Chudley Cannons, Harry looked around with delight. "It's a bit small," said Ron quickly. "Not like that room you had with the Muggles." But Harry, grinning widely, said, "This is the best house I've ever been in." Chapter 4. At Flourish and Blotts. Life at the Burrow was as different as possible from life on Privet Drive. The Dursleys liked everything neat and ordered. The Weasleys' house burst with the strange and unexpected. What Harry found most unusual about life at Ron's wasn't the talking mirror or the clanking ghoul. It was the fact that everybody there seemed to like him. Mrs. Weasley fussed over his socks and tried to force him to eat 4th helpings. Mr. Weasley bombarded him with questions about Muggle life. "Fascinating," he would say as Harry explained telephones. "Ingenious, really, how many ways Muggles have found of getting along without magic." One sunny morning, Harry and Ron received letters from Hogwarts. Along with the usual information, there was a book list requiring an extensive collection of Gilderoy Lockhart titles. "That lot won't come cheap," said George, with a quick look at his parents. "Lockhart's books are really expensive." "Well, we'll manage," said Mrs. Weasley, though she looked worried. "I expect we'll be able to pick up a lot of Ginny's things secondhand." The following Wednesday, they prepared to visit Diagon Alley using Floo powder, a magical transportation method unfamiliar to Harry. "He's never traveled by Floo powder," said Ron suddenly. "Sorry, Harry, I forgot." After watching Fred and George demonstrate, Harry nervously took his turn. The moment he stepped into the emerald flames, he found himself spinning wildly through a network of fireplaces. Coughing on ash, he stammered, Diagon Alley." Something went wrong. Harry tumbled out onto cold stone in a dimly lit shop, filled with withered hands, evil-looking masks, and human bones. This was definitely not Diagon Alley. Peering through the shop window, Harry realized he was in a dark alley devoted to the dark arts. Before he could leave, Draco Malfoy entered the shop with his father. Harry hid inside a cabinet, listening as Mr. Malfoy sold suspicious items to avoid Ministry raids. "The Ministry grows ever more meddlesome," Mr. Malfoy said. "There are rumors about a new Muggle Protection Act. No doubt that flea-bitten, Muggle-loving fool, Arthur Weasley, is behind it." Harry felt a surge of anger as Mr. Malfoy berated Draco for having lower grades than Hermione Granger. "I would have thought you'd be ashamed that a girl of no wizard family beat you in every exam," he snapped. After they left, Harry slipped out into what he learned was Nocturne Alley. Lost and unsure, he was approached by a witch selling human fingernails when Hagrid's massive form appeared. "Harry, what do you think you're doing down there?" Hagrid seized Harry by the scruff of the neck and pulled him into the sunlight of Diagon Alley. Soon they found the Weasleys, who had been frantically searching for him. Mr. Weasley fixed Harry's broken glasses with a tap of his wand, and they headed to Gringotts Bank. The visit to the Weasleys' nearly empty vault made Harry uncomfortable, especially when they reached his own vault, overflowing with gold. He tried to block the contents from view as he filled his money bag. After visiting various shops, they arrived at Flourish and Blott's, where a large crowd had gathered. A banner announced that Gilderoy Lockhart was signing his autobiography. Inside, they found the flamboyant wizard surrounded by his own portraits, all flashing dazzling white teeth. When Lockhart spotted Harry, he pulled him to the front for photographs. "Nice big smile, Harry," said Lockhart. "Together, you and I are worth the front page." Lockhart then announced to the crowd, "I have great pleasure and pride in announcing that this September I will be taking up the post of defense against the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." Escaping with an armful of free books, Harry encountered Draco Malfoy. "Famous Harry Potter," said Malfoy, "can't even go into a bookshop without making the front page." When Ginny defended Harry, Malfoy sneered, "Potter, you've got yourself a girlfriend." Ron stepped forward angrily, just as Mr. Weasley and Mr. Malfoy faced each other. "We have a very different idea of what disgraces the name of wizard, Malfoy," Mr. Weasley said coldly, after Mr. Malfoy insulted his family's poverty. Tension exploded when Mr. Weasley lunged at Mr. Malfoy, sending books cascading around them. Hagrid separated them, but not before Mr. Malfoy thrust Ginny's second-hand Transfiguration book back at her with malice. "Here, girl, take your book. It's the best your father can give you," he said before sweeping out with Draco. "Ye should have ignored him, Arthur," said Hagrid as they left. "Rotten to the core, the whole family. Everyone knows that. No Malfoy's worth listening to. Bad blood, that's what it is." It was a subdued group that returned to the Leaky Cauldron, where they would journey back to the burrow by Flue powder. Definitely not Harry's favorite way to travel. Chapter 5. The Whomping Willow. The end of summer vacation came too quickly for Harry. His month at the burrow had been the happiest of his life, making it difficult not to feel jealous when he thought of returning to the Dursleys. On their last evening, Mrs. Weasley conjured a sumptuous dinner with all Harry's favorites. The next morning was chaotic. Mrs. Weasley dashing about in a bad mood, people colliding on stairs with toast in hand, and Mr. Weasley nearly breaking his neck tripping over a chicken. Harry couldn't imagine how 8 people, 6 trunks, 2 owls, and a rat would fit into one small Ford Anglia, until Mr. Weasley revealed the car's magically expanded trunk. "Not a word to Molly," he whispered. They reached King's Cross at 11:15 and hurried to the station. Percy went through the barrier first, followed by Mr. Weasley, Fred, and George. Mrs. Weasley took Ginny through next. "Let's go together," Ron said to Harry. They pushed their trolleys toward the barrier, gathering speed, and crashed. Both trolleys bounced backward, Hedwig's cage tumbled, and people stared as she shrieked indignantly. "Lost control of the trolley," Harry gasped. "Why can't we get through?" Ron whispered. Harry looked at the giant clock with a sickening feeling. 10 seconds. 9 seconds. "It's gone," said Ron when the train departed. "What if Mum and Dad can't get back through? Have you got any Muggle money?" Harry laughed hollowly. "The Dursleys haven't given me pocket money for about 6 years." They looked around, still attracting attention from Hedwig's screeches. "Harry," said Ron suddenly, eyes gleaming, "the car! We can fly it to Hogwarts!" "But your mum and dad, they don't need the car. They know how to apparate." Harry's panic turned to excitement. "Can you fly it?" "No problem." They loaded their luggage, put Hedwig on the back seat, and Ron started the ignition with a tap of his wand. He pressed a silver button on the dashboard, and they vanished, invisible in the car. The ground fell away as the car rose above London. Suddenly, with a popping noise, they reappeared. "Uh-oh," said Ron, jabbing at the invisibility booster. "It's faulty." "Or maybe," said a cold voice behind them, "he's waiting to hear why you two didn't arrive on the school train." Snape led them to his dungeon office. "So," he said softly, "the train isn't good enough for the famous Harry Potter and his faithful sidekick Weasley?" He showed them the Evening Prophet headline. "Flying Ford Anglia mystifies Muggles. I noticed considerable damage to a very valuable Whomping Willow," he added. Soon Professor McGonagall arrived, looking furious. "Explain," she demanded. Ron told their story about the barrier refusing to let them through. "Why didn't you send us a letter by owl?" she asked coldly. Harry felt foolish. I didn't think." "That," said Professor McGonagall, "is obvious." Professor Dumbledore arrived, looking unusually grave. Harry told him everything except that Mr. Weasley owned the bewitched car. "We'll go and get our stuff," said Ron hopelessly. "What are you talking about, Weasley?" barked Professor McGonagall. "Well, you're expelling us, aren't you?" "Not today," said Dumbledore. "But I must impress upon both of you the seriousness of what you have done." Snape looked disappointed as Dumbledore left with him. Leaving the boys with Professor McGonagall, she assigned them detention but took no points from Gryffindor. She conjured sandwiches and pumpkin juice before returning to the feast. When they reached Gryffindor Tower, they found the entire house waiting to celebrate their dramatic arrival. "Brilliant!" yelled Lee Jordan. "Inspired! What an entrance! Flying a car right into the Whomping Willow!" Embarrassed but pleased, Harry and Ron pushed through the cheering crowd to their dormitory, where their fellow second years greeted them with awe. Despite knowing they shouldn't have enjoyed it, They couldn't help but grin. Chapter 6. Gilderoy Lockhart. The next day, Harry's mood soured from breakfast onward. In the great hall, he and Ron sat beside Hermione, who greeted them stiffly, clearly still disapproving of their flying car arrival. As they ate, owls streamed in with the morning mail. Among them was Ron's bedraggled family owl Errol, who collapsed on the table with a red envelope in his beak. "Oh no," Ron gasped, pointing at the red envelope. "She sent me a howler." When Ron finally opened it, Mrs. Weasley's magically amplified voice thundered through the hall. "Stealing the car. I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd expelled you. Your father's facing an inquiry at work. It's entirely your fault. And if you put another toe out of line, we'll bring you straight back home." The letter burst into flames, leaving Harry and Ron stunned. Harry's insides burned with guilt about Mr. Weasley's inquiry at work. After receiving their schedules from Professor McGonagall, the trio headed to herbology. Outside the greenhouses, they found Professor Sprout accompanied by Gilderoy Lockhart, their new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Lockhart, immaculate in turquoise robes with golden hair, was giving unwanted advice about treating the Whomping Willow. Before Harry could join the class in Greenhouse 3, Lockhart pulled him aside. "Harry," said Lockhart, his large white teeth gleaming, "when I heard about the flying car, well, I knew at once why you'd done it. Gave you a taste for publicity, didn't I? You got onto the front page with me and couldn't wait to do it again." Despite Harry's protests, Lockhart continued, "Natural to want more once you've had that first taste, but you can't start flying cars to get noticed. When I was 12, I was just as much a nobody as you are now. I mean, a few people have heard of you, haven't they? All that business with he who must not be named." He glanced at Harry's scar. "I know. It's not quite as good as winning Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award 5 times in a row, as I have. But it's a start, Harry." Inside the greenhouse, Professor Sprout announced they would be repotting mandrakes, dangerous plants whose cry could be fatal. Everyone donned earmuffs as protection. The mandrakes, when pulled from soil, revealed themselves as ugly, screaming baby-like creatures. Harry partnered with Ron, Hermione, and Justin Finch-Fletchley, a Hufflepuff who praised Lockhart enthusiastically. After a sweaty herbology lesson and a difficult transfiguration class where Ron struggled with his broken wand, the trio headed to lunch. Hermione had outlined all of Lockhart's lessons with hearts on her schedule, which Ron teased her about. In the courtyard after lunch, a small boy named Colin Creevey approached Harry, camera in hand. "Can I have a picture?" Colin asked eagerly. "So I can prove I've met you. I know all about you, how you survived when you-know-who tried to kill you and everything." Before Harry could answer, Draco Malfoy's scathing voice rang out. "Signed photos? You're giving out signed photos, Potter. Everyone line up." As Harry angrily denied this, Lockhart appeared and flung an arm around Harry's shoulders. "Shouldn't have asked. We meet again, Harry," he thundered jovially, forcing Harry into a double portrait with Colin before dragging him away. "I covered up for you back there," Lockhart said as they walked to class. "Handing out signed photos at this stage of your career isn't sensible. Looks big-headed. There may come a time when, like me, you'll need to keep a stack handy, but I don't think you're quite there yet." In Defense Against the Dark Arts, Lockhart began by giving the class a quiz. 54 questions, all about himself, including his favorite color and secret ambitions. While Hermione earned full marks, most students were baffled or amused. For their first lesson, Lockhart dramatically unveiled a cage of Cornish pixies, small blue mischievous creatures. When he released them, chaos erupted. The pixies destroyed the classroom, dangled Neville from the chandelier, and threw Lockhart's wand out the window. As the bell rang, Lockhart quickly fled, leaving Harry, Ron, and Hermione to capture the remaining pixies. "Can you believe him?" Ron exclaimed after being bitten. "He just wants to give us some hands-on experience," Hermione defended. "Hermione, he didn't have a clue what he was doing," Harry argued. "Rubbish," she replied. "You've read his books. Look at all those amazing things he's done." "He says he's done," Ron muttered. Chapter 7: Mudbloods and Murmurs. Harry spent days dodging Gilderoy Lockhart and Colin Creevey, who seemed thrilled whenever Harry acknowledged him. With Hedwig still angry about the car journey and Ron's wand malfunctioning badly, Harry looked forward to the weekend. Oliver Wood, captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, woke Harry at dawn on Saturday. "Quidditch practice," Wood said, eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. "It's part of our new training program. None of the other teams have started yet." Yawning, Harry dressed and headed to the field, encountering Colin on the way. "I've never watched a Quidditch game before," Colin exclaimed, following Harry like an eager shadow. Harry reluctantly explained the rules as they walked. There are 4 balls. The bludgers fly around trying to knock people off their brooms. 2 beaters on each team keep them away. The quaffle scores goals through hoops, and the golden snitch must be caught to end the game, earning an extra 150 points. In the changing room, Wood presented diagrams of his new tactics while the rest of the team struggled to stay awake. When they finally reached the field, Harry saw Ron and Hermione in the stands. "Haven't even started," Harry told them. "Wood's been teaching us new moves." As the team practiced, the Slytherin squad arrived. Wood landed angrily. "Flint, this is our practice time." The Slytherin captain smirked. "I've got a specially signed note from Professor Snape to train our new seeker." From behind the team emerged Draco Malfoy, smirking. Flint then revealed that Lucius Malfoy had bought the entire team new Nimbus 2001 broomsticks. "Very latest model," Flint said as the Gryffindors stared speechlessly. Ron and Hermione approached, and Malfoy boasted about his new position and the brooms. "At least no one on the Gryffindor team had to buy their way in," Hermione said sharply. "They got in on pure talent." Malfoy's face darkened. "No one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudblood." Chaos erupted. The Weasley twins tried to attack Malfoy, and Ron pulled out his broken wand. "You'll pay for that one, Malfoy." A green light shot from the wrong end of Ron's wand, hitting himself in the stomach. He began belching slugs while the Slytherins howled with laughter. Harry and Hermione helped Ron toward Hagrid's cabin. They ducked behind a bush when they saw Lockhart leaving. "It's a simple matter if you know what you're doing," Lockhart was saying to Hagrid before striding away. Inside the cabin, Hagrid wasn't concerned about Ron's slug problem. "Better out than in," he said cheerfully, placing a basin before Ron. While Ron coughed up slugs, Hagrid criticized Lockhart's advice about removing kelpies from wells. "I think you're being unfair," Hermione said. "Professor Dumbledore obviously thought he was the best man for the job." "He was the only man for the job," Hagrid replied. "Getting difficult to find anyone fair the dark arts job. People think it's jinxed." When Hagrid asked what had happened, Ron explained between slug attacks. "Malfoy called Hermione mudblood," he said hoarsely. Hagrid looked outraged, while Hermione admitted not knowing what it meant. "It's the most insulting thing for someone Muggle-born," Ron explained. "Some wizards like Malfoy's family think they're better because they're pure blood. But it doesn't make any difference. Most wizards these days are half-blood anyway. After visiting Hagrid's enormous pumpkins, magically enhanced for Halloween, they returned to the castle, where Professor McGonagall assigned their detentions. Ron would polish trophies with Filch, and Harry would help Lockhart answer fan mail. That evening in Lockhart's office, Harry addressed countless envelopes, while Lockhart prattled about fame. Then suddenly, Harry heard something chilling that Lockhart couldn't hear. "Come, come to me. Let me rip you. Let me tear you. Let me kill you." "That voice," Harry said frantically. "What voice?" Lockhart looked puzzled. Later that night, Harry told Ron about the mysterious voice. "Do you think he was lying?" Ron frowned. "But even someone invisible would have had to open the door." "I know," said Harry, staring at the canopy above his bed. "I don't get it either." Chapter 8: The Death Day Party. October arrived, spreading a damp chill over the grounds and into the castle. Madame Pomfrey was kept busy by colds among staff and students. Her pepper-up potion worked instantly, though it left the drinker smoking at the ears for hours afterward. Rain thundered on the castle windows for days. The lake rose, and Hagrid's pumpkins swelled to the size of garden sheds. Oliver Wood's enthusiasm for Quidditch training remained undampened, which was why Harry found himself returning to Gryffindor Tower one stormy Saturday, drenched and mud-splattered. The practice hadn't been happy. Fred and George reported that the Slytherin team with their new Nimbus 2001s were no more than 7 greenish blurs shooting through the air like missiles. As Harry squelched along the corridor, he came across nearly headless Nick, staring morosely out a window. "Hello, Nick," said Harry. Hello, said nearly headless Nick, starting. He wore a dashing hat and a tunic with a ruff that concealed his nearly severed neck. "You look troubled, young Potter," said Nick, folding a transparent letter. "So do you," said Harry. "A matter of no importance. Thought I'd apply to join the Headless Hunt, but apparently I don't fulfill requirements." Despite his airy tone, Nick's face showed great bitterness. "They say getting hit 45 times in the neck with a blunt axe doesn't qualify me," he erupted, pulling out his letter. "We can only accept huntsmen whose heads have parted company with their bodies." He read furiously. "It would be impossible otherwise for members to participate in hunt activities such as horseback head juggling and head polo." Nick stuffed the letter away. "Half an inch of skin and sinew holding my neck on, Harry. Most people would think that's good and beheaded, but oh no, not enough for Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore." Nick then asked what was bothering Harry. Before Harry could finish explaining about needing Nimbus brooms, Mrs. Norris, the caretaker's cat, appeared at his ankles. "You'd better get out of here," Nick warned. "Filch isn't in a good mood. He's got the flu, and some third years plastered frog brains on the ceiling. If he sees you dripping mud..." Too late. Filch burst through a tapestry, wheezing and looking wildly about. "Filth!" he shouted, pointing at the muddy puddle from Harry's robes. "Mess and muck everywhere. Follow me, Potter." Harry followed Filch to his office, a dingy windowless room that most students avoided. Wooden filing cabinets contained details of every punished pupil. Chains and manacles hung on the wall behind Filch's desk. Filch began writing up Harry's punishment form, but was interrupted by a loud bang from above. "Peeves!" Filch roared, abandoning Harry to chase after the poltergeist. Left alone, Harry noticed a purple envelope on Filch's desk, labeled Quickspell, a correspondence course in beginner's magic. Curious, Harry read about the course for witches and wizards struggling with magic. When Filch returned, he spotted Harry near the envelope and turned brick red. "Have you? Did you read?" He sputtered. No, Harry lied. Filch, looking madder than ever, dismissed Harry without punishment. Outside, Harry discovered nearly headless Nick had arranged Peeves's distraction. I persuaded Peeves to crash a cabinet over Filch's office, Nick explained. Thanks, Nick, said Harry gratefully. As they walked together, Nick mentioned his upcoming 500th Death Day party on Halloween and invited Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Would you possibly mention to Sir Patrick how frightening and impressive you find me? Nick asked hopefully. Of course, Harry promised. By Halloween, Harry regretted promising to attend the Death Day party, while the rest of the school enjoyed the feast with live bats, carved pumpkins, and rumors of dancing skeletons. At 7 o'clock, Harry, Ron, and Hermione walked past the inviting Great Hall toward the dungeons. The passageway was lined with black candles burning blue, and the temperature dropped with every step. They heard what sounded like 1,000 fingernails scraping an enormous blackboard. Is that supposed to be music? Ron whispered. The dungeon was filled with hundreds of pearly white, translucent ghosts. Their breath rose in mist. It was like stepping into a freezer. They wandered the edge of the dance floor, passing gloomy nuns, a chained man, and various other ghosts. When they spotted a long table of food, they approached eagerly but stopped, horrified by the smell. Rotten fish, burned black cakes, and a maggoty haggis were displayed on silver platters. They encountered Peeves the poltergeist, who mischievously called over moaning Myrtle, a ghost who haunted a girl's bathroom. After an awkward exchange that ended with Myrtle fleeing in tears, nearly headless Nick approached to check on them. The orchestra suddenly stopped playing as a hunting horn sounded. Through the wall burst a dozen ghost horses ridden by headless horsemen. Their leader, Sir Patrick, greeted Nick mockingly and interrupted his speech with a game of head hockey. Cold and hungry, Harry, Ron, and Hermione decided to leave. As they headed toward the entrance hall, Harry suddenly heard a voice, "Rip, tear, kill." It was the same cold, murderous voice he'd heard in Lockhart's office. Harry stopped, listening intently. "Sue hungry, for so long, kill, time to kill." The voice seemed to be moving upward. Harry ran up the stairs with Ron and Hermione behind him, confused because they couldn't hear anything. "I smell blood. I smell blood. It's going to kill someone," Harry shouted, running to the second floor. They turned into a deserted passage and found foot-high words shining on the wall. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." Beneath the message hung Mrs. Norris, stiff as a board, eyes wide and staring. Before they could leave, students from the feast flooded the corridor. As silence fell over the crowd, Draco Malfoy pushed to the front, his cold eyes alive. "Enemies of the air, beware. You'll be next, mudbloods," he called, grinning at the sight of the immobile cat. Chapter 9. The Writing on the Wall. "What's going on here? What's going on?" Attracted by Malfoy's shout, Argus Filch came shouldering through the crowd. When he saw Mrs. Norris, he fell back in horror. "My cat! My cat! What's happened to Mrs. Norris?" he shrieked. His eyes fell on Harry. You've murdered my cat! I'll kill you!" "Argus!" Dumbledore had arrived, followed by other teachers. He detached Mrs. Norris from the torch bracket. "Come with me, Argus. You too, Mr. Potter, Mr. Weasley." Miss Granger. In Lockhart's office, Dumbledore examined the cat while Harry, Ron, and Hermione watched nervously. If Dumbledore believed Filch, Harry would be expelled for sure. "She's not dead, Argus," Dumbledore finally said. "Not dead?" choked Filch. "But why's she all stiff and frozen?" "She has been petrified," said Dumbledore. "But how? I cannot say." "Ask him," Filch pointed at Harry. "He found in my office. He knows I'm a squib." "I never touched Mrs. Norris," Harry said loudly, "and I don't even know what a squib is." Snape emerged from the shadows. "Potter and his friends may have simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time." But why were they in that corridor instead of the Halloween feast? The three explained about the Death Day party, but couldn't explain why they'd gone to that particular corridor afterward. Harry didn't want to mention the bodiless voice only he had heard. "I suggest, Headmaster, that Potter is not being entirely truthful," Snape said with a nasty smile. "I personally feel he should be taken off the Gryffindor Quidditch team until he is honest." "Really, Severus," said Professor McGonagall sharply, "there is no evidence Potter has done anything wrong." "Innocent until proven guilty," Dumbledore said firmly. Dumbledore explained they could cure Mrs. Norris once Professor Sprout's mandrakes reached full size. After an awkward exchange between Lockhart and Snape about who would make the potion, Dumbledore dismissed the students. Later, Harry asked his friends, "Do you think I should have told them about that voice I heard?" "No," said Ron. "Hearing voices no one else can hear isn't a good sign, even in the wizarding world." What was that writing on the wall about? Harry wondered. "The chamber has been opened." What's that supposed to mean? "And what's a squib?" Harry asked. "A squib is someone born into a wizarding family without magic powers," Ron explained. "Kind of the opposite of muggle-born wizards. If Filch is trying to learn magic from a quick-spell course, he must be a squib. Explains why he hates students so much. He's bitter." For days, the school talked of nothing but the attack. Filch kept pacing the spot where Mrs. Norris had been attacked, and when not there, he punished students for trivial offenses like breathing loudly. Ginny Weasley seemed deeply disturbed by Mrs. Norris's fate. Meanwhile, Hermione spent all her time reading and wouldn't explain why. In the library, Harry found Ron measuring his history of magic homework. "I'm still 8 inches short," Ron complained, "and Hermione's done 4 feet 7 inches. When Hermione joined them, she was irritable. "All the copies of Hogwarts A History have been taken out. I wish I hadn't left mine at home." "Why do you want it?" Harry asked. "To read about the Chamber of Secrets," she replied. "What's that?" Harry asked quickly. "That's just it. I can't remember, and I can't find the story anywhere else. During History of Magic, something unprecedented happened." Hermione raised her hand while Professor Binns was lecturing. "I was wondering if you could tell us anything about the Chamber of Secrets," she asked. Professor Binns looked amazed. No student had ever interrupted him before. "My subject is History of Magic," he said. "I deal with facts, not myths and legends." But Hermione persisted, and the entire class became attentive. Reluctantly, Binns shared the legend. Hogwarts was founded over 1,000 years ago by 4 great witches and wizards: Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. For years, they worked in harmony, but disagreements arose. Slytherin believed magical learning should be kept within all magic families. He disliked students of Muggle parentage, believing them untrustworthy. After arguing with Gryffindor, Slytherin left the school. Binns continued, "Legend says Slytherin built a hidden chamber that only his true heir could open. The heir alone could unleash the horror within and purge the school of those unworthy to study magic." The class was silent with unease. "The whole thing is nonsense," Binns insisted. "The school has been searched many times. The chamber does not exist." "Sir, what exactly is the horror within?" Hermione asked. "Some sort of monster which only the heir of Slytherin can control," Binns answered. Despite several more questions from students, Binns insisted it was just a myth and returned to his lecture. "I always knew Salazar Slytherin was a twisted old loony," Ron said afterward. "I wouldn't be in his house if you paid me." Harry said nothing, remembering the Sorting Hat had considered putting him in Slytherin. As they walked, Colin Creevey passed by, mentioning someone in his class was saying something about Harry, likely that he was Slytherin's heir. "Do you really think there's a Chamber of Secrets?" Ron asked Hermione. "I don't know," she replied, "but whatever attacked Mrs. Norris might not be human." They found themselves at the corridor where the attack happened. The message, "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened," still gleamed on the wall. Harry discovered scorch marks nearby. Hermione noticed spiders scuttling frantically to escape through a small crack in the window. Ron stood far back, admitting his fear of spiders stemmed from Fred turning his teddy bear into a giant spider when he was 3. They noticed the bathroom door near where water had pooled the night of the attack. Despite it being a girl's bathroom, they entered Moaning Myrtle's lavatory. Inside the gloomy bathroom, they questioned Myrtle about the night of the attack, but she hadn't been paying attention. She dived into the toilet in distress when Ron accidentally upset her. As they left, Percy caught them and scolded them severely, taking 5 points from Gryffindor and threatening to write to their mother. That night, in the common room, Hermione whispered, "Who'd want to frighten all the squibs and muggleborns out of Hogwarts?" "Malfoy," Ron said immediately. "His whole family's been in Slytherin. They could easily be Slytherin's descendants." "They could have had the key to the Chamber of Secrets for centuries," Harry agreed, handing it down, father to son. "But how do we prove it?" Harry wondered. "There might be a way," Hermione said slowly. "We'd need to get inside the Slytherin common room without Malfoy realizing it's us. We'd need some polyjuice potion." "What's that?" the boys asked. "It transforms you into somebody else." "We could change into 3 Slytherins," Hermione explained. Ron worried about side effects, but Hermione assured him it would wear off. The real challenge would be getting the recipe from the restricted section of the library. "I think if we made it sound as though we were just interested in the theory, we might stand a chance," Hermione suggested. "Oh, come on. No teacher's going to fall for that," said Ron. "They'd have to be really thick." Chapter 10. The Rogue Bludger. Since the disastrous Pixie incident, Professor Lockhart had taken to reading passages from his books instead of bringing live creatures to class. He often chose Harry to help reenact his adventures, much to Harry's dismay. During their next defense against the dark arts lesson, Harry found himself playing a werewolf while Lockhart demonstrated his supposed heroics. "Nice loud howl, Harry. Exactly. And then I pounced, slammed him to the floor. With one hand, I managed to hold him down. With my other, I put my wand to his throat and performed the immensely complex Homorphous charm. He turned back into a man. Simple, yet effective." After class, Harry, Ron, and Hermione approached Lockhart's desk. "Professor," Hermione stammered, "I wanted to get this book from the restricted section of the library. I'm sure it would help me understand what you say in Gadding with Ghouls." "Ah, possibly my very favorite book," Lockhart beamed, scrawling his signature on her note without even looking at the book title. As they left, Harry muttered, "He didn't even look at the book we wanted." "That's because he's a brainless git," said Ron. "He is not," Hermione replied shrilly. In the library, Madame Pince scrutinized Lockhart's note before reluctantly retrieving most potente potions. The 3 friends hurried to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom to examine it privately. Hermione found what they were looking for, the polyjuice potion. "This is the most complicated potion I've ever seen," she said. Some ingredients will be easy from the student cupboard, but others, powdered horn of bicorn, shredded skin of boomslang, will be tricky, and will need a bit of whoever we want to change into. Excuse me? Ron said sharply. I'm drinking nothing with crab's toenails in it. Harry worried. Do you realize how much we're going to have to steal? Break into Snape's private stores? I don't know if this is a good idea. Well, if you two are going to chicken out, fine, Hermione said, pink patches appearing on her cheeks. I think threatening Muggleborns is far worse than brewing a difficult potion. How long will it take? Harry asked. About a month, if we can get all the ingredients. Saturday morning arrived with Harry feeling nervous about the Quidditch match against Slytherin. The Slytherins had the advantage of faster brooms, new Nimbus 2001s that Malfoy's father had bought for the entire team. In the locker room, Wood gave his pre-match speech. Slytherin has better brooms than us, he began. But we've got better people on our brooms. We've trained harder. He turned to Harry. It'll be down to you to show them that a seeker has to have something more than a rich father. Get to that snitch before Malfoy or die trying. So no pressure, Harry, said Fred, winking. As the match began, Harry flew higher than anyone else, searching for the snitch. Suddenly, a heavy black bludger came pelting toward him. He narrowly avoided it. Close one, Harry, called George, streaking past to knock the bludger toward a Slytherin. But something strange happened. The bludger changed direction in midair and shot straight for Harry again. No matter how many times Fred and George hid it away, the bludger kept returning to Harry like a magnet. Someone's tampered with this bludger, Fred grunted, swinging his bat with all his might. During a timeout, the team huddled together. Listen, said Harry, with you two flying around me all the time, I'll never catch the snitch. Let me deal with the rogue one. Don't be thick, said Fred. It'll take your head off. We're not losing to Slytherin because of a crazy bludger, Harry insisted. When play resumed, Harry was on his own against the bludger. He looped, swooped, spiraled, and zigzagged around the pitch, the heavy bludger always in pursuit. Despite his dizziness, he kept his eyes wide open through the rain. Training for the ballet, Potter? Malfoy taunted as Harry twirled to dodge the bludger. Harry glared back at Malfoy and saw it. The golden snitch was hovering inches above Malfoy's left ear, and Malfoy, busy laughing, hadn't noticed. Wham! The bludger smashed into Harry's elbow. Through seeing pain, he felt his arm break. The bludger came back for a second attack, this time aiming at his face. Through a haze of rain and pain, Harry dived toward Malfoy, who swerved away in fear. With his good hand, Harry made a wild snatch and felt his fingers close around the snitch. Then he hit the ground with a splattering thud. We've won, he said vaguely before fainting. When he came around, Lockhart was leaning over him. Not to worry, Harry. I'm about to fix your arm. No, Harry protested. I'll keep it like this, thanks. But Lockhart had already twirled his wand. A strange sensation spread from Harry's shoulder to his fingertips, as though his arm was being deflated. Looking down, Harry saw what looked like a thick, flesh-colored rubber glove where his arm should be. Lockhart hadn't mended Harry's bones, he had removed them. In the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey was furious. You should have come straight to me. I can mend bones in a second, but growing them back. You will be able to, won't you? Harry asked desperately. Certainly, but it will be painful, she replied, handing him a steaming beaker of Skelligro. After his friends left and the pain in his limp arm grew worse, Harry finally fell asleep, only to wake hours later to find someone sponging his forehead. Dobby, he exclaimed. The house elf's tennis ball eyes peered at him through the darkness. Harry Potter came back to school, he whispered miserably. Dobby warned and warned Harry Potter. What are you doing here? Harry demanded. Dobby was so shocked when he heard Harry Potter was back at Hogwarts, the elf said, rocking back and forth. You nearly got Ron and me expelled, Harry said fiercely. Dobby admitted with a weak smile. Dobby is used to death threats, sir. Dobby gets them 5 times a day at home. Then he added suddenly, Harry Potter must go home. Dobby thought his bludger would be enough. Your bludger, Harry's anger rose. You made that bludger try and kill me? Not kill you, sir. Never kill you, Dobby said, shocked. Dobby wants to save Harry Potter's life. Better sent home grievously injured than remain here. Why? Harry demanded. If Harry Potter only knew, Dobby groaned. Terrible things are to happen, are perhaps happening already, and Dobby cannot let Harry Potter stay here now that history is to repeat itself. Now that the Chamber of Secrets is open once more, Dobby froze in horror, then grabbed Harry's water jug and cracked it over his own head. Bad Dobby, very bad Dobby. So there is a Chamber of Secrets, Harry whispered, and it's been opened before, but I'm not Muggle-born. How can I be in danger? Dark deeds are planned in this place, stammered the elf. Harry Potter must not meddle in this, sir. 'Tis too dangerous. Who opened it? Who opened it last time? Dobby can't, sir. Dobby mustn't tell. Suddenly, Dobby froze, his bat ears quivering. Footsteps were coming down the passageway. With a loud crack, Dobby vanished. Moments later, Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall entered carrying what looked like a statue. Harry pretended to be asleep. Another attack, said Dumbledore. Minerva found him on the stairs. We think he was trying to sneak up here to visit Potter, said Professor McGonagall. Harry carefully raised himself to look. A ray of moonlight fell across the staring face of Colin Creevey, petrified, his camera still clutched in his rigid hands. Petrified? Whispered Madame Pomfrey. Yes, said Professor McGonagall. Dumbledore wrenched the camera from Colin's grip and opened it. A jet of steam hissed out, and the smell of burnt plastic filled the air. Melted, said Madame Pomfrey wonderingly. What does this mean, Albus? Professor McGonagall asked urgently. It means, said Dumbledore, that the Chamber of Secrets is indeed open again. But Albus, surely, who? The question is not who, said Dumbledore, his eyes on Colin. The question is how. Chapter 11, The Dueling Club. Harry awoke Sunday morning to find his arm reboned but stiff. Madame Pomfrey discharged him after breakfast, and he hurried to find Ron and Hermione, who weren't in Gryffindor Tower. Passing the library, Harry encountered Percy, who mentioned Gryffindor's lead in the House Cup thanks to Harry's Quidditch performance. When Harry asked about Ron and Hermione, Percy frowned. I hope Ron's not in another girl's toilet. Harry found his friends in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, brewing the forbidden polyjuice potion. We'd have come to meet you, Ron explained, but we decided to get started. We've decided this is the safest place to hide it. Harry told them about Colin Creevey's attack and Dobby's midnight visit. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened before? Hermione gasped. Lucius Malfoy must have opened it when he was at school, Ron declared, and now he's told Draco how to do it. News of Colin's attack had spread fear throughout the school. Students traveled in groups, and a thriving trade in protective amulets emerged among the terrified students. In December, Harry, Ron, and Hermione signed up to stay at Hogwarts for Christmas. The perfect opportunity to use the polyjuice potion on Malfoy, but they still needed ingredients from Snape's private stores. What we need, said Hermione, is a diversion. I'll do the stealing. You two just need to cause enough mayhem to keep Snape busy. During Thursday's potions class, Harry waited for Hermione's signal. then lobbed a filibuster firework into Goyle's cauldron. The resulting explosion caused chaos as the swelling solution splashed several students. Amidst the confusion, Hermione slipped into Snape's office and returned with the stolen ingredients. "It'll be ready in 2 weeks," she said happily. A week later, the trio discovered a notice about a dueling club. That evening, they joined the excited crowd in the Great Hall, where Golden Stage had replaced the dining tables. "I wonder who will be teaching us," Hermione wondered. To Harry's dismay, Gilderoy Lockhart strode onto the stage in plum robes, accompanied by a scowling Snape. "Professor Dumbledore has granted me permission to start this little dueling club," Lockhart announced grandly. "Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape." The professors faced off in demonstration. When Lockhart counted to 3, Snape cried, "Expelliarmus!" A scarlet flash sent Lockhart flying across the room. Lockhart wobbled to his feet, claiming he could have blocked the spell if he'd wanted to. The professors then paired students for practice. Snape deliberately matched Harry with Malfoy. Professor McGonagall silenced everyone and had Justin carried to the hospital wing. Then she led Harry to a spiral staircase behind a stone gargoyle that moved when she said, "Lemon drop." They ascended toward an oak door, clearly Dumbledore's office. Chapter 12, The Polyjuice Potion. They stepped off the stone staircase at the top, and Professor McGonagall rapped on the door. It opened silently, and they entered. Professor McGonagall told Harry to wait and left him there, alone. Harry looked around Dumbledore's circular office, filled with whirring silver instruments and portraits of old headmasters. Behind the enormous desk sat the Sorting Hat. Harry couldn't resist trying it on again. "Bee in your bonnet." "Harry Potter," said the hat. "I wanted to ask," Harry muttered. "You've been wondering whether I put you in the right house," said the hat smartly. "But I stand by what I said before. You would have done well in Slytherin." Harry's stomach plummeted. "You're wrong," he said, putting the hat back. A strange gagging noise made him turn around. On a golden perch stood a decrepit-looking bird that resembles a half-plucked turkey. As Harry watched, the bird burst into flames. Harry backed away in shock. Dumbledore entered, and to Harry's astonishment, smiled. "About time, too. Fawkes is a phoenix, Harry. Phoenixes burst into flame when it's time for them to die, and are reborn from the ashes." A tiny, wrinkled bird poked its head from the ashes as Dumbledore explained that phoenixes can carry heavy loads, have healing tears, and make faithful pets. Before Dumbledore could speak further, Hagrid burst in, waving a dead rooster. "It wasn't Harry, Professor Dumbledore," he said urgently. "I was talking to him seconds before that kid was found." "Hagrid, I do not think that Harry attacked those people," Dumbledore said firmly. After Hagrid left, Dumbledore asked, "I must ask you, Harry, whether there is anything you'd like to tell me. Anything at all." Harry thought of Malfoy's threat, the Polyjuice Potion, the voice he'd been hearing, and the rumors about him being Slytherin's heir. "No," said Harry. "There isn't anything, Professor." The double attack on Justin and nearly headless Nick turned nervousness into panic. Most students booked seats on the Hogwarts Express to go home for Christmas, but Harry was glad for the quiet. Fred and George found the situation amusing, marching ahead of Harry in the corridors, shouting, "Make way for the heir of Slytherin! Seriously evil wizard coming through." Percy disapproved, but Harry didn't mind their jokes. On Christmas morning, Hermione burst into the boys' dormitory. "Wake up," she said, "the potion's ready." That evening, they finalized their plan. "We still need a bit of the people you're changing into," said Hermione, showing them 2 chocolate cakes laced with sleeping draught to knock out Crabbe and Goyle. Their plan worked perfectly. After Crabbe and Goyle collapsed from eating the drugged cakes, Harry and Ron took their hairs and shoes, then hurried to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, where Hermione was stirring the cauldron. "I'm sure I've done everything right," said Hermione, ladling the mud-like potion into 3 glasses. "Once we've drunk it, we'll have exactly an hour before we change back." They each added their hairs. Hermione had Millicent Bulstrode's, Harry had Goyle's, and Ron had Crabbe's. The potions changed color dramatically. In separate stalls, they drank the disgusting concoctions. Harry felt immediate pain as his body began to transform. His hands grew, shoulders stretched, and skin bubbled like hot wax. When it was over, Harry stood as Goyle, and Ron had become Crabbe. But Hermione refused to come out. "I don't think I'm going to come after all," she said in a high-pitched voice. Harry and Ron set off to find the Slytherin common room. After wandering the dungeons, they encountered Malfoy. "There you are," he drawled. "I've been looking for you." He led them to a stretch of bare stone wall and said, "Pureblood." A hidden door opened, revealing the Slytherin common room with its greenish lamps and stone walls. Malfoy showed them a newspaper clipping about Ron's father being fined for the flying car incident. Then he began talking about the Chamber of Secrets. "I wish I knew who it is," said Malfoy petulantly. "I could help them." Harry asked if Malfoy knew who opened the chamber last time. "Whoever it was expelled," said Malfoy. "Father says to keep my head down and let the heir of Slytherin get on with it. He says the school needs ridding of all the mudblood filth." Suddenly, Ron's nose began lengthening. Their hour was up. They sprinted from the Slytherin common room, barely escaping before completely transforming back. When they returned to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, Hermione wouldn't come out of her stall. "What's up?" asked Ron as she emerged sobbing, her face covered in black fur with yellow eyes and pointed ears. "It was a cat hair," she howled. "The potion isn't supposed to be used for animal transformations." "It's okay, Hermione," said Harry quickly. "We'll take you up to the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey never asks too many questions." Chapter 13. The Very Secret Diary. Hermione remained in the hospital wing for several weeks after her face had grown fur during the Christmas holidays. Rumors spread that she'd been attacked, causing many students to try peeking into the hospital wing until Madame Pomfrey placed curtains around her bed. Harry and Ron visited regularly, bringing her homework. One evening, Harry noticed something gold under Hermione's pillow, a get-well card from Professor Lockhart. Ron was disgusted. Later, as Harry and Ron climbed the stairs toward Gryffindor Tower, they heard Filch shouting angrily above them. "You don't think someone else has been attacked?" Ron asked tensely. They investigated and found a flooded corridor outside Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Inside, Myrtle was wailing louder than ever. "What's up, Myrtle?" Harry asked. "Someone threw a book at me," she sobbed. Harry spotted a small, thin book with a shabby black cover beneath the sink. When he reached for it, Ron stopped him. "Are you crazy? It could be dangerous." Harry laughed. "How could it be dangerous?" Despite Ron's warnings about cursed books, Harry picked it up. It was a 50-year-old diary with T.M. Riddle written inside. "I know that name," Ron said. "He got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. I polished his shield in detention." The diary was completely blank. Harry wondered why someone wanted to flush it away. When Hermione returned to Gryffindor Tower in February, Harry showed her the diary. She was immediately intrigued. "The Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago," Harry noted. "This diary is 50 years old." "What if Riddle got his award for catching the heir of Slytherin?" Hermione suggested excitedly. His diary would probably tell us everything. There's nothing written in it, Ron pointed out. Hermione tried revealing spells, but nothing appeared. Harry couldn't explain why he kept the blank diary. The name T.M. Riddle seemed oddly familiar, as though Riddle was a half-forgotten childhood friend, though Harry had never had friends before Hogwarts. In the trophy room, they found Riddle's name on various awards. He had been head boy and won medals for magical merit. As February progressed, no more attacks occurred. Professor Lockhart took credit for stopping the Chamber of Secrets and planned a morale booster for February 14th, Valentine's Day. The Great Hall was decorated with pink flowers and heart-shaped confetti. Lockhart, in lurid pink robes, had arranged for card-carrying cupids, surly dwarfs with golden wings and harps, to deliver valentines throughout the day. Later, one particularly grim dwarf cornered Harry in a corridor full of students, including Ginny Weasley. "I've got a musical message for 'Arry Potter," the dwarf announced, grabbing Harry's bag when he tried to escape. The bag split, spilling his belongings across the floor just as Draco Malfoy arrived. The dwarf sat on Harry's ankles and sang, "His eyes are as green as a fresh-pickled toad. His hair is as dark as a blackboard. I wish he was mine. He's really divine, the hero who conquered the Dark Lord." Mortified, Harry noticed Malfoy had picked up Riddle's diary. When Harry demanded it back, Malfoy taunted him until Harry shouted, "Expelliarmus!" The diary shot into the air, and Ron caught it. That night, Harry examined the diary again. Though his other books were soaked with ink from his broken bottle, the diary remained pristine. Curious, Harry deliberately dropped ink onto a page and watched in amazement as it disappeared. He wrote, "My name is Harry Potter." The words vanished, then new words appeared. "Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary?" "Someone tried to flush it down a toilet," Harry wrote. "Lucky that I recorded my memories in some more lasting way than ink," Riddle replied. "I always knew there would be those who would not want this diary read." When Harry asked about the Chamber of Secrets, Riddle revealed that during his 5th year, the chamber had been opened and the monster had killed a student. Riddle had caught the culprit, who was expelled, but the headmaster concealed the truth. "I can show you," Riddle wrote. "I can take you inside my memory." Harry agreed, and suddenly felt himself pitching headfirst through the diary into a whirl of color and shadow. He found himself in the headmaster's office, not Dumbledore's, but Professor Dippett's. Harry was invisible to the people of 50 years ago. A 16-year-old boy with a prefect's badge entered, Tom Riddle. He'd requested to stay at Hogwarts over summer instead of returning to his Muggle orphanage, but Dippet refused due to the attacks and the recent death. If the person was caught, if it all stopped, Riddle began suggestively. "Do you mean you know something about these attacks?" Dippet asked. "No, sir," Riddle replied quickly, though Harry sensed he was lying. Harry followed Riddle through the castle until they encountered a young Dumbledore, who warned Riddle not to roam the corridors. Riddle then led Harry to the dungeons, where they waited until they heard someone creeping along the passage. They followed the sounds until they reached a huge boy with a large box. "Evening, Rubius," Riddle said sharply. "What you doing down here, Tom?" the boy, a young Hagrid, asked. "It's all over," Riddle declared. "I'm going to have to turn you in. They're talking about closing Hogwarts if the attacks don't stop." Hagrid protested that his creature never killed no one, but Riddle forced the door open with a spell. Out came an enormous spider with many eyes and sharp pincers, which scuttled away. Hagrid tackled Riddle, yelling, "No!" the memory ended. Harry crashed back onto his bed in Gryffindor Tower just as Ron entered the dormitory. "It was Hagrid, Ron," Harry gasped. "Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago." Riddle then led Harry to the dungeons, where they waited until they heard someone creeping along the passage. They followed the sounds until they reached a huge boy with a large box. "Evening, Rubeus," Riddle said sharply. "What you're doing down here, Tom?" the boy, a young Hagrid, asked. "It's all over," Riddle declared. "I'm going to have to turn you in. They're talking about closing Hogwarts if the attacks don't stop." Hagrid protested that his creature never killed no one. But Riddle forced the door open with a spell. Out came an enormous spider with many eyes and sharp pincers, which scuttled away. Hagrid tackled Riddle, yelling, "No!" The memory ended. Harry crashed back onto his bed in Gryffindor Tower just as Ron entered the dormitory. "It was Hagrid, Ron," Harry gasped. "Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago." Chapter 14, Cornelius Fudge. Harry, Ron, and Hermione had always known that Hagrid had an unfortunate liking for large and monstrous creatures. Harry was certain that Hagrid would never have meant to kill anybody. But after seeing Riddle's memory, doubt lingered. "Riddle might have got the wrong person," said Hermione. "Maybe it was some other monster that was attacking people." "We always knew Hagrid had been expelled," said Harry miserably. "And the attacks must have stopped after Hagrid was kicked out. Otherwise, Riddle wouldn't have got his award." In the end, they decided not to confront Hagrid unless there was another attack. As months passed with no incidents, the school relaxed. Nearly 4 months had gone by since Justin and Nearly Headless Nick had been petrified, and most people believed the attacker had retired for good. Spring arrived, and second years were given their subject choices for the next year. Hermione signed up for everything, while Harry and Ron chose the same subjects, feeling that if they were lousy at them, at least they'd have each other for support. The night before Gryffindor's Quidditch match against Hufflepuff, Harry returned to his dormitory to find his belongings scattered everywhere. Someone had searched through his things. And Riddle's diary was gone, stolen by a fellow Gryffindor. The next morning, as Harry headed to the Quidditch pitch, he heard the voice again. "Kill this time. Let me rip. Tear." Hermione suddenly gasped with realization. "Harry, I think I've just understood something. I've got to go to the library." She sprinted away before they could ask what she'd figured out. Harry had barely mounted his broom when Professor McGonagall came rushing across the pitch with a megaphone, canceling the match. She beckoned Harry over, allowing Ron to join them as they walked to the infirmary. "This will be a bit of a shock," said Professor McGonagall gently. "There has been another attack, another double attack." Harry's insides did a horrible somersault. In the hospital wing lay a Ravenclaw girl and— "Hermione," Ron groaned. Hermione lay utterly still, her eyes open and glassy. McGonagall showed them a small, circular mirror found near the victims, but neither Harry nor Ron could explain it. Back in the common room, Professor McGonagall announced strict new security measures. "It is likely that the school will be closed unless the culprit behind these attacks is caught," she said in a choked voice. That night, Harry made up his mind. "We've got to talk to Hagrid. I can't believe it's him this time, but if he set the monster loose last time, he'll know how to get inside the Chamber of Secrets." Under Harry's invisibility cloak, they crept through the castle and across the grounds to Hagrid's hut. They found him nervous and jumpy, but before they could talk properly, there was a knock at the door. Harry and Ron quickly hid under the cloak as Dumbledore entered, accompanied by Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic. "Bad business, Hagrid," said Fudge. 4 attacks on Muggle-borns. Ministry's got to act." "I never," said Hagrid, looking imploringly at Dumbledore. "I want it understood, Cornelius, that Hagrid has my full confidence," said Dumbledore, his blue eyes filled with a fire Harry had never seen before. But Fudge insisted on taking Hagrid to Azkaban prison as a precaution. Before they could argue further, Lucius Malfoy arrived with an order of suspension signed by all 12 school governors, removing Dumbledore as headmaster. "You can take Dumbledore!" yelled Hagrid. "Take him away, and the Muggleborns won't stand a chance. They'll be killin' next." Dumbledore remained calm, looking directly at Malfoy. "You will find that I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. You will also find that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it." As Hagrid was led away, he left a cryptic message. If anyone wanted to find out some stuff, all they'd have to do would be to follow the spiders. That'd lead 'em right. When the door closed, Ron pulled off the invisibility cloak, his face pale. "We're in trouble now. No Dumbledore. They might as well close the school tonight. There'll be an attack a day with him gone." Chapter 15, Aragog. Summer was creeping over the castle grounds, but without Hagrid striding across them with Fang, nothing felt right to Harry. Inside the castle, things were worse. With Dumbledore gone, fear had spread as never before. Harry repeated the headmaster's final words, "I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. Help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it." But who could they ask? Harry and Ron had been searching for spiders, following Hagrid's hint, but found none. Meanwhile, Malfoy strutted around delighted, gloating about Dumbledore's absence and making cruel remarks about Hermione. That night, Harry wrote Ron a note. "Let's do it tonight." Under the invisibility cloak, they slipped out to Hagrid's cabin, bringing Fang along. At the forest's edge, Harry spotted 2 spiders hurrying away from his wandlight. "Okay," Ron sighed, resigned to the worst. "I'm ready." They followed the spiders deep into the forest, the trees growing thicker until stars were no longer visible. When the spiders left the path, Harry hesitated, remembering Hagrid's warning. But Hagrid had also said to follow the spiders. After walking half an hour, they heard something large moving nearby. Suddenly, a blaze of light appeared. Mr. Weasley's enchanted car, now wild and living in the forest. Before they could celebrate, Harry felt something long and hairy seize him around the middle, lifting him off the ground. Ron, too, was captured. Giant spiders the size of car horses carried them to a vast hollow swarming with more massive spiders. At the center of a domed web appeared a blind spider the size of a small elephant. "Aragog!" called their captor. "Kill them!" clicked Aragog. "I was sleeping." "We're friends of Hagrid's," Harry shouted, heart pounding. "Hagrid's in trouble." Aragog paused. "Hagrid has never sent men into our hollow before. They think Hagrid's been setting something on students. They've taken him to Azkaban." "But that was years ago," said Aragog. "They believed I was the monster from the Chamber of Secrets, that Hagrid had set me free." "You didn't come from the chamber?" asked Harry. "I was not born in the castle. A traveler gave me to Hagrid when I was an egg. When I was discovered and blamed for a girl's death, he protected me." "So you never attacked anyone?" "Never," croaked the old spider. "The body of the girl was discovered in a bathroom." "Do you know what did kill that girl?" asked Harry. "Whatever it is, it's back. The thing that lives in the castle is an ancient creature we spiders fear above all others," said Aragog. We do not speak of it." Harry sensed the conversation ending as spiders pressed closer on all sides. "We'll just go then," Harry called desperately. "Go? I think not," said Aragog. "My sons and daughters do not harm Hagrid, but I cannot deny them fresh meat that wanders so willingly into our midst." Just as Harry reached for his wand, a loud horn sounded. Weasley's car thundered down the slope, headlights blazing, knocking spiders aside. The doors flew open. "Get Fang!" Harry yelled, diving into the front seat. They crashed through the forest, the car finding its path until they reached the edge. Fang bolted to Hagrid's house. Ron was violently sick, and Harry collected the invisibility cloak. "Follow the spiders," said Ron weakly. "I'll never forgive Hagrid. What was the point? What have we found out?" "That Hagrid never opened a chamber of secrets," said Harry. "He was innocent." Back in their dormitory, Harry couldn't sleep, thinking about what Aragog had said. They had hit dead ends everywhere, until suddenly he sat bolt upright. "Ron," he hissed through the dark. "That girl who died. Aragog said she was found in a bathroom. What if she never left? What if she's still there?" Ron understood immediately. "You don't think not Moaning Myrtle?" Chapter 15, Aragog. Summer was creeping over the grounds around the castle. Sky and lake alike turned periwinkle blue. But with no Hagrid visible striding the grounds with Fang at his heels, the scene didn't look right to Harry. With Dumbledore gone, fear had spread as never before. Harry constantly repeated Dumbledore's final words to himself. "I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. Help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it." But who exactly were they supposed to ask for help? Hagrid's hint about the spiders was easier to understand, but there didn't seem to be a single spider left in the castle to follow. Meanwhile, Draco Malfoy strutted around the school, gloating to Crabbe and Goyle. "I always thought Father might be the one who got rid of Dumbledore," he said loudly. "Maybe we'll get a decent headmaster now, someone who won't want the Chamber of Secrets closed." Later in herbology class, Harry spotted several large spiders scuttling over the ground, moving in an unnaturally straight line toward the Forbidden Forest. At the end of the lesson, Harry whispered to Ron, "We'll have to use the invisibility cloak again." That night, under the cloak, they slipped out to Hagrid's cabin, collected Fang, and entered the forest following a trail of spiders. Deep within the darkness, Harry's illuminated wand showed the spiders leaving the path. "We've come this far," said Ron, though his voice betrayed his fear. After walking for what seemed like half an hour, they heard something large moving through the forest. Suddenly, a blaze of light appeared to their right. Mr. Weasley's enchanted car, now wild and living in the forest. Before they could celebrate, Harry felt something long and hairy seize him around the middle. A giant spider had grabbed him. Another took Ron, and both boys were carried deeper into the forest. They were brought to a hollow swarming with enormous spiders. The one carrying Harry called out, "Aragog! Aragog!" From the middle of a misty web emerged a spider the size of a small elephant with milky white eyes. He was blind. "What is it?" Aragog clicked his pincers. "Men," clicked the spider who had caught Harry. "Kill them," clicked Aragog fretfully. "We're friends of Hagrid's," Harry shouted, his heart pounding. Aragog paused. "Hagrid has never sent men into our hollow before." "Hagrid's in trouble," said Harry. "They've taken him to Azkaban. They think he's been setting something on students." "But that was years ago," said Aragog. They believe that I was the monster that dwells in the Chamber of Secrets. They thought Hagrid had opened the chamber and set me free. "And you didn't come from the Chamber of Secrets?" asked Harry. "I was not born in the castle. A traveler gave me to Hagrid when I was an egg. When I was discovered and blamed for the death of a girl, he protected me." "So you never attacked anyone?" Harry asked. "Never," croaked the old spider. "The body of the girl who was killed was discovered in a bathroom." "Do you know what did kill that girl?" said Harry desperately. "The thing that lives in the castle is an ancient creature we spiders fear above all others," said Aragog. "We do not speak of it. We do not name it." As Aragog retreated into his web, the other spiders began closing in. "We'll just go then," Harry called. "Go?" said Aragog slowly. "I think not. My sons and daughters do not harm Hagrid on my command, but I cannot deny them fresh meat when it wanders so willingly into our midst." Just as Harry reached for his wand, Mr. Weasley's car thundered down the slope, headlights glaring. The doors flew open, and Harry and Ron scrambled inside with Fang. The car sped away, crashing through the forest until they reached the edge. Back at Hagrid's cabin, Ron was violently sick in the pumpkin patch. "Follow the spiders," said Ron weakly. "We're lucky to be alive." Under the invisibility cloak, they returned to the castle. In their dormitory, Harry couldn't sleep, thinking about what Aragog had said. Suddenly, he sat bolt upright with a realization. "Ron," he hissed through the dark. "That girl who died, Aragog said she was found in a bathroom. What if she never left the bathroom? What if she's still there?" Ron understood too. "You don't think, not Moaning Myrtle." Chapter 16, The Chamber of Secrets. All those times they were in that bathroom and Moaning Myrtle was just 3 toilets away, said Ron bitterly at breakfast. Professor McGonagall had just informed them that exams would start in a week, despite the Chamber of Secrets situation. The castle was in a state of fear, yet they were expected to study as though nothing was wrong. 3 days before exams, Professor McGonagall made an announcement at breakfast. "I have good news," she said, and the great hall erupted with hopeful chatter. "Professor Sprout has informed me that the mandrakes are ready for cutting at last. Tonight, we will be able to revive those who have been petrified. One of them may tell us who or what attacked them." There was an explosion of cheering. Ron looked happier than he had in days. "It won't matter that we never asked Myrtle then. Hermione'll probably have all the answers when they wake her up." Just then, Ginny Weasley approached, looking tense and nervous. "I've got to tell you something," Ginny mumbled, carefully avoiding Harry's eyes. "Is it something about the Chamber of Secrets?" Harry asked quietly. "Have you seen something? Someone acting oddly?" But before she could answer, Percy appeared, and Ginny fled, leaving Harry and Ron frustrated. Later, when Lockhart was escorting them to class, Harry and Ron managed to slip away and headed toward Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. They were caught by Professor McGonagall, but Harry quickly claimed they were going to visit Hermione. Surprisingly moved, McGonagall allowed them to go. In the hospital wing, Harry noticed something clutched in Hermione's petrified hand. A crumpled piece of paper. He carefully extracted it. It was a page torn from an old library book about the basilisk, known as the King of Serpents. The page described how its stare was fatal, and that spiders fled before it. At the bottom, Hermione had written a single word: "Pipes." "Ron," Harry breathed. "This is it. The monster in the chamber's a basilisk." "That's why I've been hearing that voice all over the place. I understand Parseltongue." Harry figured out why no one had died, no one had looked directly into its eyes. Colin saw it through his camera, Justin through nearly headless Nick, and Hermione had been using a mirror to look around corners. "The basilisk's been using the plumbing to move around the castle," Harry said, pointing at Hermione's note. "The entrance to the Chamber of Secrets must be in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom." Before they could act, Professor McGonagall's magically amplified voice echoed through the corridors. "All students return to dormitories immediately. All teachers to the staff room." Harry and Ron hid in a wardrobe in the staff room and overheard the terrible news. Ginny Weasley had been taken into the chamber itself. A message had been left. Her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever. Lockhart arrived, boasting as usual, and the other teachers mockingly assigned him the task of rescuing Ginny, knowing he was a fraud. After the teachers left, Harry and Ron decided to tell Lockhart what they knew. They found him packing to flee. When confronted, he admitted his books were all lies. He had simply taken credit for what other wizards and witches had done, using memory charms to make them forget their accomplishments. When Lockhart attempted to erase Harry and Ron's memories, Harry disarmed him. At wand point, they forced him to accompany them to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Myrtle told them how she died. She had heard someone speaking a strange language. And when she opened the stall door to tell the boy to leave, she saw a pair of great yellow eyes by the sink, and then she died. Harry found a tiny snake scratched on one of the taps. Speaking in Parseltongue, he commanded it to open. The sink sank out of sight, revealing a large pipe. Harry decided to go down to save Ginny. Ron joined him, and they forced the terrified Lockhart to go first. They slid down the pipe into darkness, landing in a tunnel deep beneath the school. They discovered a massive snakeskin, confirming their basilisk theory. Lockhart feigned fainting, then grabbed Ron's wand and attempted to erase their memories. But Ron's damaged wand backfired, causing an explosion that created a rockfall, separating Harry from the others. With no choice but to continue alone, Harry pressed forward through the tunnel until he reached a wall with two carved serpents with emerald eyes. Speaking Parseltongue again, he commanded them to open, and the Chamber of Secrets was revealed before him. Chapter 17, The Heir of Slytherin. Harry stood at the end of a dimly lit chamber, towering stone pillars with carved serpents rising around him. His heart beating fast, he moved cautiously forward between the columns, ready to close his eyes at any sign of the basilisk. Against the back wall loomed a statue high as the chamber itself. Between its enormous feet lay a small figure with flaming red hair. "Ginny," Harry muttered, dropping to his knees beside her. "Don't be dead! Please don't be dead!" Her face was white as marble and cold. He shook her desperately. "She won't wake," said a soft voice. Harry spun around. A tall, black-haired boy was leaning against the nearest pillar, strangely blurred around the edges. "Tom Riddle?" Riddle nodded, not taking his eyes off Harry's face. "What do you mean she won't wake?" Harry asked desperately. "She's still alive," said Riddle, "but only just." Harry stared at him. Tom Riddle had been at Hogwarts 50 years ago, yet here he stood, not a day older than 16. "Are you a ghost?" "A memory," said Riddle quietly, "preserved in a diary for 50 years. He pointed toward the floor, near the statue's giant toes, where the little black diary lay open. When Harry reached for his wand to help Ginny, he discovered it missing. Riddle was twirling it between his fingers. "We've got to go," Harry urged. "If the basilisk comes—" "It won't come until it is called," said Riddle calmly. Harry stared at him, lowering Ginny back to the floor. "How did Ginny get like this?" "The diary," said Riddle. "My diary. Little Ginny's been writing in it for months, telling me all her secrets. No one's ever understood me like you, Tom." His laugh was high and cold. I grew stronger on a diet of her fears and secrets, powerful enough to start pouring a little of my soul back into her." "What do you mean?" said Harry. "Ginny Weasley opened the Chamber of Secrets," said Riddle softly. "She strangled the roosters, wrote threatening messages, and set the serpent on 4 mudbloods and the cat." "No," Harry whispered. "Yes," said Riddle calmly. "Of course, she didn't know what she was doing at first." He recited Ginny's diary entries about losing her memory, finding rooster feathers on her robes, and fearing she was attacking people. "Why did you want to meet me?" Harry asked, anger coursing through him. "Well, you see, Ginny told me all about you," said Riddle, eyes hungry as they roved over Harry's lightning scar. "Your whole fascinating history." Riddle revealed how he had framed Hagrid 50 years ago and preserved himself in the diary, hoping to one day finish Salazar Slytherin's work. "My new target has been you," Riddle said quietly. "Imagine how angry I was when the next time my diary was opened, it was Ginny writing to me, not you. She saw you with the diary and panicked, so the foolish little brat stole it back. But I made Ginny write her own farewell and come down here. She put too much of herself into the diary, into me, enough to let me leave its pages at last." Then Riddle asked the question that burned within him. How had Harry survived Lord Voldemort's attack? "Voldemort was after your time," Harry said slowly. "Voldemort," said Riddle softly, "is my past, present, and future, Harry Potter." He traced Harry's wand through the air, writing, "Tom Marvolo Riddle." Then he rearranged the letters. "I am Lord Voldemort." "You're not the greatest sorcerer in the world," Harry said, his voice full of hatred. "The greatest wizard is Albus Dumbledore. Even when you were strong, you didn't dare try and take over at Hogwarts." The smile vanished from Riddle's face, but before he could speak, music filled the chamber. Flames erupted atop the nearest pillar, and a crimson phoenix appeared, dropping a ragged bundle, the Sorting Hat, at Harry's feet before landing on his shoulder. "Fawkes?" Harry breathed. Riddle laughed. "This is what Dumbledore sends his defender, a songbird and an old hat." Then Riddle turned to business. He walked to Slytherin's statue and hissed in Parseltongue, "Speak to me, Slytherin. Greatest of the Hogwarts Four." The statue's mouth opened wide, and something began slithering up from its depths. The basilisk was coming. "Kill him!" Riddle commanded. Harry ran blindly with his eyes shut. He tripped and fell hard onto the stone as the massive serpent approached. Suddenly he heard explosive spitting sounds. Fawkes was attacking the basilisk, diving at its face and puncturing its deadly yellow eyes. "No!" Riddle screamed. "Leave the bird! The boy is behind you!" The blinded serpent swayed, still deadly. As Harry ducked from its thrashing tail, the Sorting Hat landed in his arms. He rammed it onto his head. "Help me," Harry thought desperately. The hat contracted, and something hard thudded onto Harry's head. A gleaming silver sword with rubies had appeared inside the hat. The basilisk lunged blindly. Harry raised the sword in both hands. The serpent struck again. This time its aim was true. Harry drove the sword to the hilt into the roof of the serpent's mouth. As the basilisk fell, a poisonous fang sank deep into Harry's arm. He slid down the wall, gripping the fang and wrenching it out, knowing it was too late. White-hot poison spread from the wound. "You're dead, Harry Potter," said Riddle's voice above him. "Even Dumbledore's bird knows it. Do you see what he's doing? He's crying." Fawkes had laid his head on Harry's wound, thick pearly tears trickling down. Instead of fading, the chamber came back into focus. The phoenix tears were healing him. "Get away, bird!" Riddle shouted. Then Fawkes dropped the diary into Harry's lap. Without thinking, Harry seized the basilisk fang and plunged it straight into the heart of the book. Riddle screamed as ink spurted from the diary. He writhed, twisted, and then he was gone. Shaking, Harry gathered his wand, the sorting hat, and the sword. Then came a faint moan. Ginny was stirring. "Harry, oh Harry, it was me, but I didn't mean to. Riddle made me," she sobbed. "It's all right," said Harry, showing her the destroyed diary. "Riddle's finished. Him and the basilisk. Come on, let's get out of here." Led by Fawkes, whose wings emitted a soft golden glow, they returned to where Ron had cleared part of the rockfall. They found Professor Lockhart there, his memory erased by his own backfired spell. "Have you thought how we're going to get back up?" Harry asked, looking up the long pipe. Fawkes fluttered before him, waving his golden tail feathers. "He looks like he wants you to grab hold," said Ron, perplexed. "Fawkes isn't an ordinary bird," Harry said, holding onto the phoenix's tail feathers with the others linked behind him. They soared upward through the pipe, emerging in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Fawkes then led them to Professor McGonagall's office, where Harry knocked and pushed the door open. Chapter 18. Dobby's Reward. For a moment there was silence as Harry, Ron, Ginny, and Lockhart stood in the doorway, covered in muck and slime and blood. Then there was a scream. "Ginny!" Mrs. Weasley leapt to her feet and flung herself on her daughter. Beyond them, Professor Dumbledore was beaming, Professor McGonagall clutching her chest beside him. Fawkes whooshed past and settled on Dumbledore's shoulder. "You saved her. How did you do it?" cried Mrs. Weasley. Harry laid the sorting hat, ruby-encrusted sword, and Riddle's ruined diary on the desk. He explained everything: the voice in the walls, Hermione discovering it was a basilisk, following spiders to Aragog, and finding the chamber's entrance through Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. "So you found the entrance," Professor McGonagall said. "But how did you get out alive?" Harry described Fawkes's arrival and the sorting hat giving him the sword, but hesitated about mentioning Riddle's diary and Ginny. What if they expelled her? Dumbledore smiled gently. "What interests me most is how Lord Voldemort managed to enchant Ginny, when my sources tell me he is currently hiding in Albania." Relief swept over Harry as Mr. Weasley stammered in confusion. Harry quickly explained. "It was this diary. Riddle wrote it when he was 16. Dumbledore examined the burnt pages. Brilliant. Very few people know Lord Voldemort was once called Tom Riddle. I taught him myself 50 years ago. He disappeared after leaving school, sank deeply into the dark arts, and underwent so many magical transformations that when he resurfaced as Lord Voldemort, he was barely recognizable." Ginny sobbed. "I've been writing in it, and he's been willing back all year." "Ginny," Mr. Weasley was flabbergasted. "Haven't I taught you anything? Never trust anything that can think for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain." "Miss Weasley should go to the hospital wing," Dumbledore interrupted firmly. "This has been a terrible ordeal. There will be no punishment. Older and wiser wizards have been hoodwinked by Lord Voldemort." After the Weasleys left with Ginny, Dumbledore sent McGonagall to prepare a feast. When they were alone, he told Harry and Ron they would receive special awards for services to the school and 200 points each for Gryffindor. Dumbledore asked to speak with Harry alone. "First, I want to thank you. You showed me real loyalty in the chamber. Nothing but that could have called Fawkes to you." Harry blurted out, "Professor, Riddle said I'm like him. Strange likenesses." "And what do you think, Harry?" "I don't think I'm like him. I'm in Gryffindor. I'm—" You can speak parcel tongue, Harry, because Lord Voldemort, the last descendant of Salazar Slytherin, transferred some of his powers to you the night he gave you that scar. Voldemort put a bit of himself in me? Harry was thunderstruck. So I should be in Slytherin, Harry said desperately. The Sorting Hat placed you in Gryffindor, Dumbledore replied calmly. You know why. Think. It only put me in Gryffindor because I asked not to go in Slytherin. Exactly. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Dumbledore handed Harry the sword. When Harry turned it over, he saw the name engraved below the hilt, Godric Gryffindor. Only a true Gryffindor could have pulled that out of the hat, said Dumbledore simply. The door burst open. Lucius Malfoy stood there, fury on his face, with Dobby cowering behind him. As they argued about Dumbledore's return, Harry noticed Dobby pointing from the diary to Mr. Malfoy, then hitting himself on the head. Harry suddenly understood. Don't you want to know how Ginny got hold of that diary, Mr. Malfoy? How should I know how the stupid little girl got hold of it? Malfoy snapped. Because you gave it to her, said Harry. In Flourish and Blots, you picked up her old Transfiguration book and slipped the diary inside it. Dumbledore smiled. I would advise you, Lucius, not to give out any more of Lord Voldemort's old-school things. If more find their way into innocent hands, Arthur Weasley will make sure they are traced back to you. As Malfoy left, kicking Dobby before him, Harry had an idea. He stuffed the diary into one of his filthy socks and ran after them. Mr. Malfoy, I've got something for you. He forced the sock into Lucius Malfoy's hand. Malfoy ripped the sock off the diary, threw it aside, then looked furiously at Harry. But Dobby caught the sock. Master has given a sock, said the elf in wonderment. Dobby is free. When Malfoy lunged at Harry, Dobby blasted him backward down the stairs. You shall not harm Harry Potter! After Malfoy fled, Dobby hugged Harry. Harry Potter is greater by far than Dobby knew. Farewell! The celebration feast lasted all night. Hermione ran to Harry screaming, You solved it! Hagrid returned, and Dumbledore announced that exams were cancelled and Professor Lockhart wouldn't return next year. The school cheered. The rest of term passed in blazing sunshine. On the Hogwarts Express home, Ginny revealed Percy's secret girlfriend, and Harry gave Ron and Hermione his telephone number. Your aunt and uncle will be proud, though, won't they? Asked Hermione as they left the train. Proud? Said Harry. All those times I could have died and I didn't manage it. They'll be furious. And together they walked back through the gateway to the Muggle world.